Hey guys, guess what? In this episode, it's going to be the start of a two-part episode series. Okay, we are back with another episode, and again, letting you guys know that I have a great partnership with SeatGeek. You get $20 off if you use promo code Caniac Report, all one word. It's a great deal to help you save money on tickets. And another thing too is that we will not be having an episode on September the 1st. That falls on a Monday. It's Labor Day. So no episode that day, but you will still get an episode that week because there will be an episode that Friday. And also remember, if you're watching me on YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a comment, leave a rating, and subscribe because it really, really does help me out. So, this is the start of a two-part, obviously, like I said, my one-liner, a two-part episode series called Great Player Expectations. Now, if you have been listening to this podcast for quite some time, or probably for the last few years, then you probably know I did a series like this probably a couple years ago. And the reason why I'm revisiting the series is because the feeling heading into the season is quite a bit different compared to last season, if you guys know. Last season was the departure of a lot of core guys like Tara Vinen, Brady Shea, and Brett Pesci. And we know heading to last season, it was going to be tough. But this season, it's different now. We have added a couple of players in Ehlers, Keandre Miller. We're hoping for certain players to take big steps like Jackson Blake, Logan Stankoven. And heck, you could probably add Stankoven in somewhat because he is kind of, I think, considered still a new player. So it's going to be very, very fun. I think this upcoming season, it's an 82 game season, so there are going to be some games where the Canes aren't going to be playing good, but I think this season there's lots of optimism with this team, and rightfully so. So what I'm going to do in this episode is cover the goalies, the defensemen, and there's going to be one honorable mention. So I'm going to talk about their stats from last season, and obviously I will talk about the playoffs. But again, the big thing here is how should they do heading into this season? Because even though this team, the concern more is how they do in the playoffs and then the regular season, they still got to get to the playoffs first. So that's why the regular season is still very, very important. And obviously, so back to my structure of this episode again, I'm going to go through the goalies and the defensemen, going to look at their points, going to look at probably the expectation that I have on those players and their role. So the first player I do want to talk about as my honorable mention is Bradley Nadeau. Now I'm sure you guys are probably saying to me, why do you have an expectation for him? He's probably not going to make the roster. Or you'll probably say, oh, he's going to make the roster. He has the best shot in the Hurricanes. Oh, he's great. He's wonderful. Well, Bradley Nadeau, if you look at his stats last season with Chicago, in uh, how many games he played, I forgot to put the amount of games he played, funny enough. But he had 32 goals, 26 assists, 58 points, and boy, getting over 30 goals in the AHL, I'm telling you, that is very good for a player his age. He was 19 years old. And my expectation for him, and this is the reason why I have him on here as kind of like an honorable mention, is because I want him to make Rod Brind'Amour's decision tough. I really, really do. So that's my expectation. Is my expectation for him to make the team? No. Because here's the thing, I don't think he is. But I think what he can do is make Brendamore's decision very, very tough. And if he does, then there is that possibility he might make the Canes team. And who knows, if he does, there probably might be a trade because you have we are stacked on the wings. The only concern is down the middle. But on the wings, we're great. And Bradley Nadeau is another winger. So you would think if he does make the team, it's probably going to be a trade. But I do think, again, I could be surprised. I do think overall he is going to be sent back down to the Wolves. He's going to be playing in the AHL. But that is my expectation. Make Brendamore's decision tough. So I'm gonna start with the goaltending now. So I'm gonna go goaltending, defense in this episode, and then I'm gonna cover the forwards in the next episode. So for goaltenders, I am gonna start with Caden Primeau, and he is the son of Hurricanes legend and Keith Primeau. But if you know his stats, good for you. But if you don't, he played in 11 games at an .836 save percentage with Montreal. And yeah, his his save percentage, obviously not good. And honestly, my expectation for Primeau, because the thing is that he is going to play NHL games. As much as I love Anderson or even Kochetkov to that matter, both of them might get hurt. So he is going to be playing games. We know Anderson eventually gets hurt because the guy is fragile. But my expectation for Primeau is be better than your predecessors that were in your position. So play better than Spencer Martin. Play better than Dustin Tokarski. If you can play better than those players and be a good, serviceable goalie in the NHL, then to me, that is a win when the Hurricanes acquired Caden Primeau. And I'm sure that was going through their minds. We need a goalie that's going to help play probably maybe around 15 games, maybe to help cover for some injuries that we might have with Anderson, which I think it's more of a question of when he gets injured, not if he gets injured, and possibly Kochetkov too. Now, both of them that get hurt, I do know that they did acquire another Russian goalie in Amir Mitikov. I don't know how I feel about bringing him up along Caden Primeau. Both of them get hurt. I would say this: if both of them get hurt, I'm not saying Mitikov is going to be terrible, but I will say that I think they probably need to be on the market for maybe another goalie, another serviceable NHL goalie. I'm not talking about getting an Anderson like goalie, but both Kochetkov and Anderson get hurt. That ain't good. So, Caden Primeau, my role for him, and I think part of how to make this season a successful season for the Hurricanes, I have no doubt it will, is to be that third goalie. The next goalie I'm going to talk about is Pyotr Kochetkov. To me, out of all these three goalies, he is the wild card. And the reason why I say he is the wild card is because we have seen games where he has played very, very bad. And we have seen games where it seems like he's one of the best goalies in the league. And I think all of us heading into last season expected him to be better. And I think out of all the players on this team right now, he's probably one of the players that we're kind of mostly disappointed in because he never really mustered a consistent effort of playing at the top level that we know and have seen him play at. So Kochetkov, his stats, 47 games, an 898 save percentage. He had an 855 save percentage in the playoffs last year. But my expectation for Kochetkov remains the same as it was heading into last season. Take that next step. Do not allow those bad goals. And I interviewed Adam recently, which you guys will be getting an episode on that soon. And if you guys remember the Adam Gold interview that I had, I mean, I agree with him. Just eliminate those bad goals. If he can do that, he's going to be a better goalie. Because I think Kochetkov, I, his potential, I think, is higher than Anderson. It's just Anderson is better right now, currently, than Kochetkov. So my role for Kochetkov, I would say, is challenge for that starting goalie position. Now, it's going to be mostly a tandem, obviously, with the Hurricanes between him and Anderson if both of them stay healthy throughout the entire season. But if you notice, when Anderson's not in the crease and it's Kochetkov, you can tell Anderson's like, I want your position day in and day out. I don't want anybody to cover the goalie or the goalie position except for me. I want Kochetkov to have that mentality too. I want him to have that determination, and I think he does. I mean, you look at Kochetkov's game; he plays a very aggressive, like emotional style, which at times I love. Sometimes he probably needs to back off a bit, but Kochetkov, he needs to be more consistent with how he is playing. Be more consistently good than being all over the place. Because us fans know when he is starting a game, it's like, okay, which Kochetkov are we getting? So that's the big thing for Kochetkov. The next goalie, obviously, who I think is the best goalie out of all the three, as you know, Frederick Anderson. So he played only 22 regular season games last season. He had an 899 save percentage, and in the playoffs, he had a 907 save percentage. And if you guys remember, I think the first two rounds, he was probably the best goalie, not only for us, but amongst any playoff team. He was that good. Like he was posting up like 920, 930 save percentages, probably even more. And my expectation, obviously, for Anderson, be healthy. Now, I'm sure you guys are probably saying, well, you know what? If you guys remember a couple years ago when we faced the Rangers, Anderson wasn't really that good. And you're right. He wasn't really that good against the Rangers. He was letting in very, very leaky goals. And honestly, this is out of pure speculation. But obviously, Anderson's personality and how he plays is completely different. It's the opposite of Kochetkov. Anderson is calm and poised. Kochetkov, he's emotional. He goes all over the place. And Anderson, I don't know if focus is the right word, but to me, I thought that's what it was in the Rangers series, was just a mentality of like, oh, I've got this, when he didn't really got it. He let in some very, very leaky goals. I think it was focus. I could be wrong. I very, very well could be. But I do think it was just a matter of not being focused throughout the entire game. So, Anderson, as long as he doesn't play like he did against the Rangers series, then I think we're fine in the goaltending department. Just be healthy. Don't get hurt, especially when it comes to playoff time. Do not get hurt. And this is my thing with Rod Brindamore. I know he played Anderson a lot last year in the playoffs, but I do think it'd be more beneficial. And I think it goes both ways too on this. I think it'd be more beneficial to Anderson, not because he's been playing bad, but it's more of just him staying healthy to play Kochetkov in more playoff games. Again, it goes both ways. So Brittamore needs to allow Kochetkov play more playoff games, but I think at the same time, Kochetkov needs to earn those playoff games. So, Anderson, your role, obviously, amongst all the three goalies that I just mentioned, including you, is to be that starting shutdown goalie throughout the season and don't get hurt, especially when it comes to round playoff time season. please do not, because if you get hurt, then there is going to be a huge, huge hole because we don't know what Kochetkov's going to be yet. So that's kind of my thing with the goalies. Now I am going to get to the defensemen. Okay, so the first player that I want to talk about in our defensemen is the rookie in Alexander Nikishin. And I know I did an episode on him this past month, or like around a month ago. So I'm not going to expand on him too much because I kind of already talked about my thoughts on him. But Nikishin, I mean, I think this is a special guy that we have. A very, very special guy. Now, how I think right now of Nikishin is that he will be a probably a maybe even a Norris finalist. But the thing is, when does he get there? Does he get to be that huge, impactful defenseman that we know he can be right off the start of the season, or is it going to be later down the road in his career, whether that's around midseason or late this upcoming season or maybe the year after? But right now, based on the amount of games he's played, and I know he was thrown into the fire, I realize that. But right now, I kind of view, I do view Nikishin based on the games that he has played, and I think he is right now the sixth best defenseman. Now, I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong in the fact that it's a good way to where coming out of the season, he plays like a top four defenseman. And you know, if he does, awesome. Please play like a top four defenseman. And Nikishin in 4 games that he's only played, again, only 4 games, and they're all playoff games. He got 1 assist and 1 point. Obviously, that 1 assist was an incredible play by Nikishin to give it to Stankoven for that goal in that win against Florida. But when it comes to the points for Nikishin, again, like Nikishin, he's projected to probably get around 70 points. So I would say for this season, if he can get at least 20 points, I would say it's a successful season. But he could get more. He could get 40. He could get 50 points. So Nikishin, kind of like I would say Kochetkov when it comes to the goalies, I would say Nikishin, he's a wild card to some extent as well because we know how good he's going to be. We just don't know when that's going to happen, whether it's going to be start of the season or later down the road. So my biggest thing with Nikishin is obviously play like you did in the Florida games, because if you guys remember that Washington game, he was all over the place. So if he can play, obviously he played better the more games he played, I thought, especially in the Florida series. If he can play the way he did against Florida, which I thought he played a lot better, then I'm happy with that. Because here's the thing. I mean, the guy is classified as a rookie, so I'm not going to put pressure on a rookie in order for us to win a Stanley Cup. That's just too much pressure. That's why I'm not expecting too much out of Nikishin. But man, he very well could be a top 4, maybe top 2 defenseman right off the bat at the start of the season. So it's going to be very interesting. He is one of the most interesting players, I would say, on the team on how he does for a full season with the Hurricanes. The next player I have, one of my favorites actually on the blue line, is Sean Walker. And last season, he got 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points. And to me, he's a defenseman that I thought played very, very good. There was one patch I thought in the regular season, along with him and Gostisbehere, where they just weren't good. But after that, probably 5-game patch right there, they were playing very, very good. And Sean Walker, I would say this, when it came to playoff time, I thought he elevated his game before he got hurt. So my expectation for him is play like you did in the playoffs. You were fantastic. So if he can play like that for a full regular season next season, that's going to be awesome. And my role for him, and I do think he is that type of defenseman, is to be a top 4 defenseman. That's my biggest thing with Sean Walker. The next player I have is Jalen Chatfield. And Chatfield, he had 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points last season. And my expectation for Chatfield, and I think we kind of saw this in the playoffs, is please don't get hurt. This is not a knock on Nikishin or Scott Morrow when we played on them. Again, they're thrown into the fire. But we saw the absence of Kochetkov. Sorry, not Kochetkov, of Chatfield in the playoffs. And everybody knew, being like, man, I really wish we had Chatfield because it is showing right now the absence of Chatfield. And I think it shows just how important Chatfield is on the blue line. I think Chatfield is probably the closest player right now to, other than Jacob Slavin, as probably, I would say, a core type of player, because whoever he plays with is going to be great because he makes them great, just like Jacob Slavin does. The only difference is Chatfield's skating ability, I think, is a bit better than Slavin's, although Slavin's still elite at his skating ability. And Chatfield, man, just love that guy. He is, to me, the pure embodiment of a shutdown defenseman. And I just love that because he also has the wheels as like an offensive defenseman. So, Chatfield, just please stay healthy. Do what you can do. Could he get probably more points? I mean, he got 18 points last season. Maybe. But to me, that's more like a cherry on top than what is actually needed. So, Chatfield, just keep playing the way you're playing. If you could get more points, that'd be great. But I'm not expecting 20, 30 points from Chatfield. I'm expecting him to be the defenseman that we know he can be, and that is to be that shutdown defenseman. The next player I have is Keandre Miller. And Miller, obviously, this is going to be his first full season with the Hurricanes. And we've seen a history, obviously, I'm sure you Hurricanes fans know, of newly acquired defensemen that have struggled right out the gate with the Hurricanes. We saw it with Orlov. We saw it with Burns. It takes time. So my expectation is Miller is probably going to take him quite a few games to get settled into Brandon Moore's system. But outside of that, I think he is going to be a very, very good defenseman. And obviously, he kind of needs to be with that contract that we signed him to, an 8 years, $7.5 million contract. But I think he can be. And if you guys know, we got another defenseman from New York who played very, very well for us in Brady Shea, who say it doesn't work here. So Keandre Miller, he got 7 goals, 20 assists, 27 points. And he was a player, like, I realized the Rangers, their season last year was just, it was remarkable in the way of they were in a playoff spot and they were able to get themselves out of a playoff spot and not even sort of come close to getting back into the playoffs. Now, there was a lot of heat on Keandre Miller. And I think a lot of that heat being directed at him, I think some of it is out of proportion because I feel like it was more of a whole team standpoint. But again, I don't watch the Rangers on a regular basis. But Keandre Miller, if he can be that Brady Shea type of defenseman, playing with whoever he plays with, because we just don't know who he's going to be playing with. My hunch is at first, I think he's going to probably play with Jacob Slavin. So if he, let's say if he does play with Slavin, then man, I think he's already going to be good, but it's because you have Slavin next to you. But Miller, he needs to be a top 4 defenseman. And I think that's the expectation. I'm not putting a lot of expectation like him with probably the other players because he is new. But I do think there is some sort of an expectation at the same time due to his contract. So I hope Miller does good. I think Miller has some offense in his game. Do I think he should be put on the power play? No. But I think he can get around 30 to 40 points and provide a good physical edge on that blue line, which we kind of needed. I would say probably since, if you guys remember this player, Joel Edmondson. So Miller, he can hit, he can be physical, he has some offensive touch, and he is a very, very good skater. So I'm already seeing the tools of another defenseman in him in Brady Shea. So hopefully he can become a Brady Shea type of player. Because I mean, us Canes fans, we the most that we've seen of Miller was that playoff series that we had. I thought he was the best defenseman on the Rangers when we played the Rangers in the playoffs a couple years ago. So if he can play like that for us, that's going to be a great investment on a player that we've locked up for 8 years. And the guy's 25 years old. So I'm happy we got some youth a little bit on the blue line with Nikishin, with Miller. The next player I want to talk about is Shane Gostisbehere. And Gostisbehere, I would say a lot of what I said about Sean Walker probably can be applied here. I thought he was very, very good. There was just one batch of games, probably around 5 games, where he was just not playing good. But other than that, he was playing, I thought, fantastic. And I thought he played pretty decent in the playoffs as well. But you look at past season stats, 7 goals, 38 assists, 45 points. And my expectation for him is the roles that he's currently playing as. He's the best offensive defenseman I think we have right now, though that could be surpassed by Nikishin. I realize that. And I think he's the best power play quarterback that we currently have. Again, could be surpassed by Nikishin. We just don't know how he's going to be coming out of the start of the regular season. But Gostisbehere, he is very, very good top 4 defenseman, and I expect him to excel and be good in those positions like he was last year. So I would say my expectation for him is play kind of probably like you did last season. I would say the only change I would probably say with Gostisbehere is probably maybe be a little bit more consistent in your point production on the power play, because there were definitely droughts there. But other than that, Gostisbehere, very, very good offensive defenseman who I think is also pretty decent on the defensive side of things too. The next player is a depth defenseman that we recently acquired, and that is Mike Riley. And Mike Riley, he didn't have a lot of game action. He only had 2 points. Both were assists. But my expectation for him is, I would say, a little bit like Nadeau, even though he's going to be on the team, is to make a tough decision on Rod Brenner and be like, hey, I want to be in the top 6. Now, odds are he probably isn't from a realistic standpoint. But I'd love to see Mike Riley come and be like, no, I'm going to prove to you I can be a top 6 type of defenseman. And I think out of all the defensemen on here, I think we know that Mike Riley is obviously is a third pair defenseman, because I think everybody else, and I am going to put Nikishin probably in this territory, are probably defensemen that can be top 4 defensemen. Do I think Mike Riley can be that? No, I just don't. But I think Mike Riley is a good depth defenseman, knowing that he can play pretty good third pairing minutes. I've seen some highlights of Mike Riley. He has a good shot, but regardless, I do think he's just a third pairing defenseman, and I think that's good if you have a third pairing defenseman as your seventh defenseman. And I wouldn't be shocked because of the amount of left-handed defensemen that we have if the Hurricanes did acquire another depth defenseman that plays right-handed, because I think sometimes you might need that at some point, especially in the playoffs. I would not be surprised if they got one, but also, again, they also have the decision of the second line center issue, because even though I think Jarvis and Stankoven, they might be able to do it, if they don't do it and they can't be that second line center, then the Hurricanes are probably going to have to look outside the organization for help on that second line center's position. So there are two problems that I could see as the season progresses. Second line center and maybe a right-handed depth defenseman. But if they can shore that up, probably come trade deadline time, that'd be awesome. And you know what? They have the cap space to do that. So we'll see how that goes. And to me, the last defenseman that I have on here, again, favorite player on the team, Jacob Slavin, 6 goals, 21 assists, 27 points. My expectation for him, be that top 2 defenseman that we have seen throughout almost your entire career here with the Hurricanes. And he can be that. We know he can. He is that good. He showed how good he can be in the Four Nations. So, I mean, I would say probably for Slavin, I'm not saying that he was bad coming out of Four Nations, but if he played like he did during his Four Nations appearance, ooh, baby. Man, he played great there. He played great. So, Slavin, just keep doing what you're doing. And that is me covering the defensemen, goalies, and obviously Nadeau in part 1 of this episode. I hope you enjoy it. And part 2 will be the next episode. So I will see you guys then.